Um,
Good evening and welcome to the Power of Now. I'm Coach Mitchell,
And I'm Coach Darren,
and together we are
the
MD
coaching
Coaching
and
and
consulting.
Consulting. Listen, forgive us for our tardiness tonight, but we've had a little bit of technical challenges this evening. But nevertheless, we are here and we are so glad that you are with us. Listen, tonight we want to beg the question of what the hell is going on? Really? What's going on in society, what's going on within us that so much is happening that we as humans don't know how to cope.
No. And we're asking that, as always, in a non-judgmental manner, but more from, a deep, inquisitive, uh, as Coach Mitchell would say, for a deep dive to go within that we see a lot going on and really just want to know, what's going on with you, what's going on in the world. Because Coach Mitchell, when we ask what's going on in the world, everybody's gonna have an opinion
Right.
about everything out there. But how are you in the midst of all that? Are you helping? You know what? One of my things right now said, are you contributing to the collective conversation for the uplift of humanity?
Right. Or have you checked out? And again, not in a judgmental way, but really from an introspective way. What is really going on with us as people? And most recent headline with the young lady who called 911 to say she spotted the toddler walking alone down the highway. And come to find out, there are a lot of suspicious accountings of her story, as well as the accounting of what may have happened. And the question is not from a judgmental perspective, but really from a place of compassion. What really happened and what was really going on in the mind of that young lady? What was really going on, not just in her mind, but in her perceived reality, that she couldn't talk to someone about what was happening in her world.
And and it's not just her. Coach Mitchell, you gave a real example of something that we all may have seen, play out. And hopefully you were in a place where you're able to observe things without judging. Because we're in a society now where everyone's quick to have their opinion about something without the facts. And they, as we always say, they make up this whole story about what occurred, as opposed to really, from a very compassionate perspective, say, what the hell is going on? What was going on with her? Uh, you know, did she have a break in her mental ability?
Right. Did the pressures of life get to her?
Yes.
And if they did, what were those pressures? What were the triggers? And did anyone see them, say something, and she dismissed it? Or did people see them and just not acknowledge them?
Right. Mhm.
And if you're on, please join the conversation because we are really at a perplexing state
Mhm.
in where we are in viewing what's happening around us. What's really going on?
Yes.
That's the question. What the hell is going on? There is a lot. I mean, we can just pick any day of the week and pull up an online news feed, and you can just see the issues that are troubling people that are playing out in very detrimental ways, and it's causing us a reason to pause and
Mhm.
ask the question.
Um, are we self-destructive? I mean, and all these are just open-ended questions. I don't want them to come across as leading. This is really from a place of just trying to understand. That's one of the things I've been pushing lately in terms of conversation with people is, you know, let's start really trying to ask to come to a better understanding. Because if we want to fix things, quote unquote, want to improve things, we really need to understand what's going on. And we need to ask from a very non-judgmental, because otherwise we're only going to bring our own biases into the solution, which won't be the solution.
Exactly. And are you pausing when you ask someone how they're doing or how their day is going? Or are you brushing past it like it's the norm
Yes.
and not really expecting a response? That's one thing I always, tell my team. If I ask you how you're doing, it's not a passive request. It's really, how are you doing?
Yes.
And maybe I can go deeper in dissecting my question, but I really am genuine when I ask people that question, how are you doing?
Or I like to also ask the question, how are you feeling? How are you feeling today? And that may trigger a different response. Mhm. Uh, I find it interesting because, one of the things that used to be say, was often asked in, say, an urban setting or in a cultural setting is, that was a question, how you feeling today? We didn't ask, how are you doing? The normal question was, how are you feeling? Because that kind of goes with, what, someone's vibe. I don't vibe with that person. So I don't know if people really understood the depth of that question, but that's really what we want to know. How are you feeling today? What's going on inside of you? And as you said, Coach Mitchell, we don't want to ask it from this passing, which is what unfortunately most people do. And sometimes people don't even wait for a response.
Right,
And we often give classic response.
I'm okay.
I'm okay, which is actually, if you say I'm okay, that's a plus. Don't let it be on a Monday, because we will define our feelings by the day of the week. Oh, it's Monday. Well, okay, you could have won the lottery today, but you're, yeah, yeah, you know how Mondays are. No, tell
No,
me.
tell me, how
Yeah.
are Mondays? Mondays are a reset.
Yes.
To me, it's a reset
Mhm.
day. It gives you an opportunity to start over, but not everyone feels that way.
Right.
A lot of people dread Monday morning.
Mhm.
I love every morning that I'm able to wake up on this side of the world.
Yes.
It's a new day, a new opportunity,
Mhm.
regardless of the day of the week. Now, again, back to that passive question on how are you doing, it's just rote or routine from people.
Mhm.
And people aren't really concerned about how you're really feeling and or doing.
Mhm.
It's become a standard pattern greeting,
Yes.
right? So what is it that we can do as we become more aware
Mhm.
that there are genuinely people who don't know how to ask for help, but act out to get the help?
Yes.
Because if they act out, they get the attention. It's like the bad child, right?
Yes. Mhm.
That
Class clown.
it's the
Mhm.
class clown. You won't pay attention to me any other way, so I'm going to do the worst thing I can think of, or the most disruptive thing I can think of to get your attention.
Mhm.
So what is it that we can do to help bring a level of compassion and understanding to people's day so they feel heard?
Yes. Uh, you know, for a while, I started thinking that maybe that's what was really going on with people. The rage was, people started to feel like they were not heard. They weren't heard in the office. They weren't heard at home. You know, and one of the things to our survival as humans is creative expression. That we have to be able to express ourselves.
Mhm.
And if we're in a place or places where we don't feel like our voice is being heard, Well, that's not the buildup inside of us.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, again, it's just, it builds up. Like, I need to get my voice out. And along with that is you see it play out also on social media. You know, one of the rules was if you read an article, don't read the comments.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes I do.
And you can't help it because as humans, you are inquisitive. You want
Yes,
to know what other people think.
yes. And sometimes people have added something to the article, and sometimes they pointed out flaws
Mhm.
in the article,
Mhm.
which so sometimes people do add, you know, add something to the conversation. But honestly, I will say mostly there's always going to be some people who either want to add what they believe is humor, which is really not needed,
Right.
uh, or people who are adding or taking away something. They're coming, oh, that's, you know, that's just blow it. None of that's true, that's crap, but they don't offer anything in return.
Exactly. People just want to be quick to offer their opinion
Yes.
and not really give any in-depth thought into what the post may have been about.
Hmm. No substance.
No substance.
Mhm.
No substance. So I think again we find ourselves back to the question, what the hell is going on? That people can't even synthesize their thoughts
Nope.
in
Mhm.
order to formulate a response.
Mhm.
And we want to get away from generalized opinions about why a person did what they did. And I'm not saying people should be psychotherapists or psychologists or, you know, it's really not that deep. It's all about caring for a person. Have you ever been around someone or been in a relationship where you may have ignored a person's feelings, but it wasn't until you asked them a question about how they really felt
Mhm.
and they were able to give you their true, authentic response because they didn't feel like they were in a place of judgment.
Right.
And that person broke down
Mhm.
because that's
Mhm.
all they wanted was someone to hear
To
where they
hear
were
them.
coming from.
Mhm.
And once you hear a person's heart, you generally tap into your own heart. And that's that compassion or that place of care. And you feel like you've made a connection and you're able to trust that person with your innermost thoughts.
Mhm.
And that person becomes your not just trust and truth partner, but your accountability partner.
That was your ally.
It becomes your ally. And your allies hold you as well as themselves accountable for your well-being.
Yes. Mhm. Uh, I think, you know, one of the issues, and I've said this before on previous sessions, and I've been saying it for the entire year, or my focus has been the entire year, is that people, I just think we're disconnected. We're disconnected on many levels, and people feel that they're alone, which again is a whole nother issue that's been proven that I believe the CDC, I don't know if it's the CDC or the National Institute of Health or one of the major organizations has now classified loneliness as an epidemic. And it's up there equivalent to, as it relates to our health, it's up there with smoking. Mhm.
Exactly. And that is as a result, unfortunately, but fortunately, of the pandemic. Because
Mhm.
it wasn't as if people were not lonely before the pandemic. People were lonely, but people, it wasn't as recognized. It wasn't as recognized.
Here's, you know, some, you know, my thought on the pandemic. I think people were lonely prior to the pandemic. People were lonely,
Right.
but they weren't alone.
Mhm.
When the pandemic hit and we went, you know, shut down, a lot of people were lonely and alone, which magnified the loneliness. Uh, you know, we have a difficult time sitting with ourselves, and I believe I've got someone made a quote that, you know, all of man's problems is his inability to sit alone. You know, and I think, like I said, that the pandemic definitely played a major role. Uh, Plus, it wasn't just like, okay, everybody go in the house and sit down and be quiet.
Right.
No, we were in the midst of really stressful environment and people were alone. Uh, so their loneliness, I think, along with the stress, just got magnified.
Right. Because I would say pre-pandemic, it was people were alone and maybe trying to figure out how not to be alone. The pandemic was a forced,
Mhm.
solitary confinement.
Mhm.
Whereas prior to the pandemic, we were not forced, it was voluntary, right? Because you have an option or had an option pre-pandemic to get out.
Yes.
But again, it's that how do you do that mindset versus, wow, I was stuck in that, how can I? Now I have no option.
Right.
Now I have no option.
So yeah, it magnified. And as we're talking about this, and you look back and you think about, yeah, we were already suffering from it, from the loneliness, but it was quiet. That's connected to not being heard. So people were not being heard, didn't feel like they were being heard someplace. Well, that also creates a form of loneliness because nobody's listening to them, more or less. And again, want to make the distinction between loneliness and being alone. Sometimes we need to be alone. Sometimes we seek anybody who's in a hectic environment, whether it's at work or at home, you treasure those moments where where you have your alone time. Uh,
I love my alone.
yes,
I love
um, and I as well. I have plenty of things that I can do, so it doesn't bother me. Uh, but for some people, it's really difficult. So
and here's the difference. I love my alone time. During the pandemic, even though we kept busy,
mhm,
we kept engaged, the issue with individuals who were not able to engage and they only had one source of media, all you were fed was statistics.
yes, death, day in, day out.
Day in, day out, day in, day
Mm.
out. That's all you heard were the dismal reports. You heard the risk versus reward of going out in public.
Mhm.
You heard of the refrigerators that were lining the street, right?
Dead bodies.
So all you heard was death and chaos, not just in your immediate environment, but across the world.
Mhm.
So that did what? It pushed people further and further into the abyss of loneliness,
Mhm.
despair, and despondence. So when you come up out of that, the question begs, what the hell is going on?
Now, and again, that's only one of the things, all right, that we're bringing up. And again, we don't want to get, caught up on the negative, but we really had to ask ourselves the question, yeah, what's going on? And what we really want is for you to take a look at yourself, you know, and ask, the ultimate question is, are you contributing to the collective conversation for the uplift? Not just offering your opinion, but offering solutions. Or are you just offering or pointing fingers, which really does not help?
Or are you being authentic with yourself?
Yes. Mhm.
Or are you being transparent enough and vulnerable enough, which I think we have to find ourselves sometimes and say, hey, I'm not okay. Everything that I have going on is just too much pressure.
Yes.
I need help.
Mhm.
If nothing else, I need somebody to just listen to me.
Mhm.
Just listen to me.
Mhm.
And then maybe just then we won't find ourselves looking at another mass shooting
Right.
or looking at someone who feels like they have an inherited right to this earth or this space, or looking at someone who has to make up a story just to either escape their reality because it's too much,
Mhm.
or to find attention because they weren't getting enough.
Right. Mhm. So again, we come back to the question, what the hell is going on? And again, we really like to hear, from you, your thoughts, even if it's thoughts about, something going on within you. How are you interpreting all of this? How's it impacting you? And again, we're in a place where, it's non-judgmental. We're not pointing fingers, because pointing fingers, say, you can't point a finger without several fingers pointing back at you.
Right.
We're also, like I said, I am, I'm also in the belief that we are all connected. So I can't separate myself from anything else in this universe, because we all come from the same source. So if I'm doing something to one, I'm really doing it to myself. So if you're feeling a certain way, I'm not one here to, to judge. It's really about, how do we help one another? How do we really lift up, all of us?
What can I do for you today?
Yes,
That's the question we
Mhm.
probably should be asking each other.
yes.
What can I do for you?
And if you don't feel comfortable offering a part of yourself to others, even ask yourself why. Now, granted, I, said this in conversation with you, coach, in conversation with others. You never want to put your own personal safety at risk when you're helping others. Because going back to the young lady that you started, tonight's session with, did she really see a young child or infant, walking alongside the highway? A toddler, walking along. Now, and unfortunately, we are in a place where you have to question, do I go out, and help this person or this child, or is it a setup? Because that's been known before. So that then adds to your chaos in your mind, because now you got your heart and your head are operating in two different places. So, and we all know true transcendence, true growth, our heart and our head have to be aligned.
Correct.
So when we're living day to day and they're not aligned, that creates chaos within.
But we also have to exercise wisdom.
Mhm.
So if it's 11 o'clock at night, whereas, 20 years ago, I may have been able to stop
Right.
because we didn't have the technology that's in place right now. I may have been able to stop and get out of my car and, rescue a child, maybe. But we know human trafficking. There's so
Yes.
many other factors at play, like you said,
Mhm.
that if I did see a toddler walking down the highway, I'm going in slow mode with my car doors locked while I'm on the phone with 911.
Mhm.
I'm not getting out of the car,
Mhm.
but I am trailing behind on the shoulder. This is me in 2023.
Yes.
I'm trailing behind this toddler on the shoulder so that they don't get out of my sight until emergency responders arrive at the scene.
Yes.
If I'm not getting out on the side of a dark road, on the side of a cornfield, if there's a child walking, it's going to freak me out,
Mhm.
but not to the point where I'm going to pull over and get out.
Yep. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're in a place where you have to go.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
it ain't my child.
No, we're in a place where it's
I
like
don't do it.
911. I saw a child about a mile back.
But there's so much going on. People,
Yes.
in all seriousness, people are getting snatched.
Mhm.
Women are being used as sex slaves, and so are children. Children are being shipped to different countries, or even to the back roads and farms of warehouses to be exploited.
Yes.
So we have to be mindful, and these things are at the top of the news. So even if you did see a situation, the first reaction and response should be to call 911 and make sure you're safe. Because as they always say, you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you can help anybody else,
Mhm.
right? So make sure you're in a safe place and then wait for the emergency response.
Yes.
Because one of the safest places you can be is in your car with the doors locked,
Yes.
not outside of it.
And you know what they say? Don't try to be a hero. Mhm.
And it's hard when it comes to a child,
Yes,
but you have to exercise sound judgment.
yes. So just, once you just think about that, as Coach Mitchell said, there's human trafficking, we also know there's issues with organs, you know, black market for organs. And I'm there, geez. So I know this all sounds dismal, but we want to bring it back to, we want folks to look at what's going on inside of you in the midst of all of this. And again, asking that question, are you contributing to the uplift, or are you just adding more noise to the situation? So you have to now become aware of your behaviors, your talk, your words, your reaction.
And
So
are you being honest with your response? Not just to those who may ask, but to the question you may ask yourself.
yes,
Are you being honest with yourself? And that's where you want to start. You
yes.
want to start with yourself.
Mhm. So before we went on air, one of the things, question we were posting is, what are you feeling? Say, actually combine it. When you look throughout your day, what are your dominant thoughts and feelings?
Mm.
This is going to require you to bring your awareness to you know, to you, to what's going on inside of you. Now, if I were to ask you a question, it's something I just recently heard. It was listening to someone and they said, what's going on with your left leg? And it was kind of funny because he posed the questions. Before I asked that question, you weren't even aware of what your left leg was, unless it was in pain. But for the most part, it wasn't even in your existence because you hadn't thought about it. So are you doing that to the entirety of you? Are you really giving yourself the acknowledgement?
And the attention.
The attention, that's a better word, thank you. Yeah, the attention that it deserves. How are you feeling? What's your most dominant, emotions and feelings during the day, which we all know our emotions and feelings are preceded by a thought. What do we think about? There's an old quote, do you wake up and say, good morning, God, or do you wake up saying, oh God, it's morning, what are you feeling? And again, this is not about judgment. It's about really bringing the awareness to yourself, because once you do that and you start paying attention, then you can start course correct. But if you ignore it, if you deny it, if you do any of those things, you may not even realize that there are things going on within that need your attention.
Absolutely. Good evening, Annie. Thank you for joining us.
Mhm.
As we ask the question, what the hell is going on? And we're talking about not just mindset, but what is giving credence to the thoughts that are preceding our actions.
Yes.
So I think that Coach, you're right. Let's reframe the question, not good morning, God.
So
I
yeah.
mean, not what did you
Yeah. So
say?
do you wake up and you say to yourself, good morning, God, or oh God, it's morning.
Exactly.
No.
So let's reframe how we approach the day. That goes back to
Mhm.
commanding your morning.
Yes.
So you acknowledge the one who gave you existence
Mhm.
versus questioning the existence that God gave you.
Right. No.
So I think that's a really good way to put it, right?
Mhm.
Put it in perspective.
Yes. Mhm.
So it's, again, how are we showing up first for ourselves and then for others?
Yes.
And then being honest with ourselves as to how we're really feeling.
Mhm.
What are we really dealing with
Mhm.
on a day-to-day basis? Because like you said, our thoughts precede our actions, right? So what we may be thinking is going to eventually show up in how we behave.
Yes. Now I'm glad you went there, because that opens up and I don't want to go too deep here, but again, just if you can repeat that, all right, your thoughts eventually lead to the actions, which then leads to what
Our
happens.
behavior.
Yeah, and what happens in our reality.
Uh-huh.
What do we call that? That's manifestation,
Absolutely.
but it's unintentional, meaning it's just playing out. You're just letting your mind do its thing, and you're responding emotionally to those thoughts, which in most cases, they're not even your thoughts, which most people we don't know. The majority of thoughts in your head, if you don't control your mind's controlling you. You are allowing your mind to dictate everything, and it's basically your subconscious mind, but your mind nonetheless.
Exactly. And a lot of times we're doing that by allowing the external source to form the thoughts and ideas in our head,
Yes. And
right?
we're not checking them.
And we're not questioning, why am I feeling this way?
Mhm.
Or why am I thinking this way? Because
Yes.
you made a point a few seconds ago, well, a few minutes ago, about, the thought that we have. But if we don't question those thoughts, good, bad, or indifferent,
Right.
right? Positive or negative, if we don't question them, meaning if we're not really assessing why we're thinking a certain way, again, our thoughts are going to precede our actions, which are going to precede our behavior.
Mhm. Yeah. So yeah, it's our thoughts basically give birth to our emotions and feelings, which then give birth to our actions, which is why we never really want to act out from our emotions, because our emotions could be based off of incorrect thoughts. You know, thoughts that aren't ours. And this is one of the problems when we talk about, are you absorbing nonstop negative media?
Mm,
Because there's a reason why they call it programming. You're being programmed and you're not even aware.
absolutely. And media in 2023 does not mean the news
Right.
on a physical television. It means media, social
Yep.
media,
Yep.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. All of those external sources play a factor on how we think
Hmm.
and really perceive ourselves
Hmm. They play out in so many ways.
in so many ways. I myself can only ingest a little bit of social
Hmm.
media on a daily. After my morning prayer, I have to go silent. I used to go radio silent. If we didn't have prayer every morning, I wouldn't be on Facebook every day.
Mm.
So my point is, it's so much content coming at you, and if you don't have a mature mindset, and even some people who do get sucked into the karma, right? Then it can have such a negative impact on your mental health.
Yep.
Because you're aspiring to be something that is not authentic. Again, even the best intention
Hmm.
that you may have, right? Because there is, we were talking about this earlier, the artificial intelligence that's built into these programs now will have you aspiring, especially if you're not cognizant of all of the different programs, apps, and algorithms that are built in. If you're just going out here on these pages with a lack of education and knowledge and understanding, then you're aspiring to achieve something that's not physically, humanly possible,
It may not be
right?
for you.
And it may not be for you, but you think that the average person is doing all of this and then some, and it's not happening without, the benefit and advantages of technology in a lot of cases. And if you haven't put in the work to achieve the accolades that you may want from, that you may see someone else that you are following or watching, if you haven't put in the work, then you can't expect the same level of achievement, right? So be aware of what you're taking in or ingesting, and know that technology is so far advanced and continuing to just speed at the sound of lightning, that
At the speed of light.
at the speed of light, that
Mhm.
we can't keep up with it.
Mhm.
and that you are competing not against another person, which you shouldn't be trying to do anyway, but you're competing against this artificial intelligence and technology that is rapidly accelerating and creating images and perceptions that you're aspiring to be at a level of that you won't achieve.
And you need to come in, you have to strengthen your mindset, and you have to be conscious of what you're observing. So again, this goes back into the power of now, being in the moment, because when you are observing all of this, taking all this media in, and you're not actually conscious of filtering it, having critical thinking, if you allow your emotions to come into play, you know what I'm saying, then they got you.
Mhm.
Because they used to say, like boxers, you say, if you get in somebody's head, you won. Uh, so it's the same thing. If while you're observing or sucking all this in, you know, uh, so we refer to as your mental diet, you have to be conscious of it. You have to really be constantly critically thinking about what you're observing, uh, and to be able to filter it.
Exactly. Annie just wanted to know with her comment that she finds herself saying it's going to be a great day. And that's her affirmation when she gets out of bed in the morning.
Awesome.
I would beg to ask the question from an understanding perspective of what follows that affirmation for you after you have affirmed that it's going to be a great day. How do you go about making sure that you're good?
Yeah, good question. And I think it, I think it is a great way because again, you're saying it's an affirmation. You're now dictating what your intentions are,
Right?
and that's where it starts. And if you can do that, it's already going to set your body into a different vibration. You'll notice it, especially the more emphatically you say it. Then you begin to feel it, and there will begin to charter your day because you're just like if it was the opposite. If you're around Debbie Downer, or David Downer, whoever it might be, and they say something negative, you'll notice that your vibration will
Totally
drop.
shifts. Mhm.
Uh, so being in control of your day and starting out, so uh, yeah, I'm going to have a great day, or saying something good happens. Sometimes we shoot that down like, oh well, that's something good happened, you know. Oh, geez, I know something bad must be coming. When you say things like that, then probably that negativity will come to you. Just ask the question, hey, what else great could happen today? If you
Exactly.
ask that after you wake up, no, that's a major thing. That's 95% of the game. I woke up today. Yeah, what else great could happen today?
And he says she's being conscious of the things around her and the stuff she retains, which is absolutely critical.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, if you think about just waking up and going about your day haphazardly, I know I feel discombobulated
Yes.
versus when I have a focus. And then in my office environment, if my desk gets too cluttered or crowded with things, I can't focus and I can't really be productive until I clean up my workspace.
Right.
So I totally understand that and thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes, thank you. And again, what I read in that is Annie is intentional about her days, uh, or even about her moments. And that consciousness, that awareness plays into it. Again, many of us aren't, we're just not consciously aware. We're just going through the motions.
Exactly. And hoping for the best.
Yes.
Which is the worst thing that you can do. Well, hello, Deborah.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
no, no negative juju.
Yeah, that's Annie. Annie said no negative juju in her salon.
I hear you.
Yes, yes.
Mhm. So
So glad you
yeah,
joined us.
yes. Good evening, Dad. Uh, So again, have the awareness, be mindful, and we're asking the question. First question: what the hell's going on? Uh, really tell us, and that's observing the external world. But then we follow up. The second question is what's going on within you? For you to take time to acknowledge your dominant feeling, dominant thoughts day to day, uh, and to be honest, to be authentic. Are you do you tend to have negative thoughts on most of your days, and the high note is an anomaly, or are you normally vibrating, in a good mood, and a low point is the anomaly. And again, no judgment. That's you to observe yourself because you can't change anything if you're not aware of it. So the first part is becoming aware. Oh, there's a problem. Mhm. Uh, you know how anybody who's had a vehicle, you know how the engine light comes on and you try to ignore it, hoping it's just going to go out, and it,
Turn the engine off and back on.
yeah,
And disappear.
uh-huh. uh, and we hope it's okay. If it goes out, then it goes out. We're like, well, okay, comes back on. But in reality, there's a problem. Uh, and doing this like internal assessment will kind of give you an idea that there's something brewing before it manifests into an actual problem. Because it will. Mhm. So, like I said, but if you're on a high note and that's how you experience most of your days, go for it.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. Hi, Stacy. I'm not sure who you came on. I didn't see you on, but thank you so much for joining us tonight. Listen, Coach, I think that if, you know, our viewers are seeking to find themselves on a different plane or plateau mentally, we have services that we can offer from our coaching portfolio. We definitely can help you migrate from that place of stagnation and
mhm.
that place of, I would say, I don't want to call it confusion, but that lack of clarity,
Yes.
lack of clarity that can help you focus 99% on the positive so that you can see clearly where you're headed versus
Mhm.
being stuck in where you
Yes. Because that was really, the follow-up question to what's going on inside of you. Pay attention to your dominant thoughts, your dominant emotions, and then to really ask yourself, what am I seeking? Hmm? What is it I'm really looking for in life? Because as we've mentioned in previous, sessions and Coach Mitchell, we've had those discussions ourselves. Is
Mhm.
quite often people get caught up in the day-to-day challenges, struggles. The older we get, the more consumed we become by life that we forget what are we even looking for. How many times have you gone into one? You got it from where you were. You went to another room looking for something. You get in another room and you totally forgot. It's like, why did I walk in this room? What was I looking for? Well,
still
yes, and so that is magnified in life because the distractions simply between the time you got up from where you were to the other room to look for whatever it was you were seeking, your mind went 100 different places. So when you got to the other room, you totally forgot. Why am I here? Now, you just, again, amplify that. That's how it plays out in life. As life goes on, all these things, come into our space and we begin to forget even who we are. Um,
have to go in every area,
yes. Mhm. Mhm.
relationships, career, again, personal growth and development. So
Mhm. So who said transformation?
that
Because,
is Annie.
okay, yes. Mhm. Uh, Transformation is key. You've heard me say, we work on improvement, change, and transformation. And I've always been one to speak of the difference. Improvement is a good start, but improvement we can simply slide backwards. We all know we improved our diet, our way of eating for sometimes a few days for a week, and then we go back to old habits. Mhm. Uh, but then we can change, and change leads a little bit more to longer lasting results. But even change, we can slide backwards. But it's still a good thing that we want to seek. But when you seek transformation, and I've said this before, there's no going back. You literally become a different person, which you have to maintain the new person that you are seeking to be. So there's no going back after that. You just think, you behave, everything about you is different.
Andy had a question that your mind being some over can get from
Oh, I think it could be an overload and
a lot of distraction.
a lot of distractions. And I think we spend a lot of time in the future or in the past. And I say when we're in the past, it usually leads to depression and regrets. Usually, sometimes we can remember happy times, but most of the time we're lingering in the things we did wrong. Yeah, the regrets. And when we're in the future, it creates anxiety because we're worrying about something. Hey, it hasn't happened, and it may never happen. Uh,
Oh, brother.
you know, so is it that your mind is in, overload? Absolutely, because we have so much stimuli now that trying to process all of it, it is overwhelming. It's not like we just got stuff coming in constantly.
And that's why we always suggest taking time to really sit with yourself and meditate and
Mhm.
just tap into, who you really are and just shut the world out for 30 minutes out of the day.
Yes. Mhm.
And when you can do that, really make a fundamental difference in your perspective, even in your thought process, because you bring clarity into your space.
Mhm.
And there's nothing like sitting down and reading. Right.
Mhm.
So, and that's not a pitch for Rule the Heart, my journal, but it is definitely what I tend to live. I have to take time to decompress, to really search my heart, and that's a daily thing because daily we ingest negativity,
Mhm.
and daily we want to get stuff, right? So we want to be able to sit with ourselves, meditate on the things that really matter, what's really important, so we can gain clarity, so that those things that we can clearly see that we can achieve, because we can't clearly see if there's so much confusion going on and a lot of
Now,
chaos
mhm.
that we can't untangle the web of our thoughts. So it's not until you can do that that you can see what your next step
So right now in this moment, I want you to focus on your breathing. Just observe your, because your breathing will happen without you, unless you got some problems. We breathe, it goes on. But bring your attention to your breathing, just momentarily. Now I want you to know, I'm going to ask you a question again. What's your left leg doing? Hmm? You had to bring your attention to your left leg. But you're in the moment, and that's the whole point. Forget about everything else that's happening. You know what? Just bring it back to your breathing. And for those who meditate, they know that this is, uh, one of the benefits of meditating because basically we always say if your mind starts to wander, just come back to your breathing. If you come back to your breathing, you come back to the moment. You know,
is. It centers you, it
yes.
brings you to that point of gravity where you're anchored so that you will have clarity.
Hmm.
You're not floating out in space,
Nope.
right? So I think that's a great exercise to perform to help bring you back
Yes.
to a ground.
So throughout here, if you find yourself, you know, if you find it difficult to get 30 minutes to sit down and try to meditate, which actually, if you're starting out, that is really difficult. So I always recommend try 5 minutes. Mhm. And if you can start at the beginning of your day, it's even better because the first 20 minutes of your day sets the rudder for your entire day. If you, come on, we all know if you ever overslept and you jumped up and you had to rush to get out, the house and you start cutting corners from your routine, you're rushing work, it tends to just play out, you know, at least for the early part of your day, you may have the moment where you can catch up, but you can feel the stress within your body. So again, what I challenge you to do is, get up, find some time to just sit with yourself. Again, start out with 5 minutes. And if you cannot, quote unquote, meditate, because they say there's no wrong way of meditating, just sit still. You may even find that to be difficult. And there's a reason why you'll find that difficult, because our body is trained. We actually say, our body has now become the mind. Our needs for the body, it's like trying to get a child to sit still. It's the same thing.
You really have to rewire.
Mm-hmm.
I know you said that 5 to 30 minutes, and 5 minutes may be difficult, 30 minutes may be an impossible feat when you first start out. True, but I guarantee you, if you do this 3 days in a row, you'll find that 30 minutes is really not enough. If I'm journaling, if I start out without doing anything but focusing on my journaling, an hour, hour and a half has passed me by before I even realize that I'm that far gone in my thoughts and getting things out and laid out on a page.
And this is why I would have to come back to, when you're journaling, you're doing something. You're allowing your thoughts. When you're meditating, you're trying not to have any thoughts. Right. Which, again, there are different opinions on that. But really, you're just trying to sit still. And that requires discipline. And if you're not used to it, you're going to feel agitated because, granted, we're wound up most of the time.
Yeah.
I got to do this, I got to do it. So, and I don't want to put the weight on people that you have to do it this way, because that's just another, to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the quest here is not a to do, it's to be. So if it's 5 minutes, if it's 1 minute, you start based on where you are, and the journey is yours and yours only. So we may say 5 to 30, it may be 1 to 5 for you. But once you start doing it and you find the peace within, you'll want to do it more. And the meditation, and as we said, the journaling, all of these are going to tap in to a part of you. For anyone who might be familiar with, yoga or yogic, uh, philosophies, you may be familiar with chakras, and you understand those energy points. It's the same. It's like you're tapping in. You want to tap into those spots within you. And all of this is a journey. It is a journey that we want to at least try to participate in, because there are so many health benefits. If you can't do that, my other go-to is spend time in nature. Spend time by yourself. Observe it, because you are a part of it. Albert Einstein had a quote that said one of the greatest illusions is that we're all separate. And it is. And because of that separation, also that disconnection, also leads us to experience some of the frustration. But we're all just part of the whole. And if you could, the meditation, the journaling, the spend time in nature brings you back into that connecting to the whole. So this is what we really want to challenge people to do. Find what's going on within. Look for ways to reconnect, look for that clarity. As someone said, bringing clarity into my space is good information. It's my personal timeout. Mhm. Absolutely. Mhm.
Okay.
Mm.
But yeah, definitely, you know, whatever your focus, whatever your intention is, whatever by any means that you feel best fits you, prayer, meditation, journaling, whatever that may be, just reconnect with yourself and allow, I would say, God to recenter you, to set you back on track to achieve whatever it is. That's one of the best things that we can do in this time, in this season, with all of the things that are going on around us that's distracting us, that we really need to focus on ourselves, growing ourselves, and two, on saving our future.
Mhm. Mhm. But it takes effort. It takes quiet time, uh, which most of us just aren't used to. When we do find that quiet time, it's still usually burdened with a lot of thoughts. We're glad to have that alone time, but I even would like to ask you if you do find quiet time and maybe you pick up a book and start reading, just again observe how your mind goes off on a tangent. So it is truly an effort to try to quiet our mind, to be aware of our thoughts, just be aware of them before you try to control them. And here's again the reality is most of the thoughts that are going around our head don't even belong to us. Like I say, most of those thoughts are caught, not taught. So you want to be mindful that the thoughts, you know, and your feelings, you want to find out, are they real? Do they even belong to you?
Annie, why you didn't tell me you couldn't hear me? You're right, Coach Darren. But I just saw a message from Deborah who said that it's hard to hear me. There's feedback.
Really?
So
Huh.
how does this sound? Even though we're about to wrap up, how does this sound? Can you hear me now? Does my audio seem to be coming across?
Yeah, like I said, on the meter, you were coming across fine.
Yes, but there was feedback, and it was very hard to hear.
I wish they had said something because I don't hear it in my, monitor.
She says I'm louder now.
Okay. Uh, yeah, you're showing up on the meter.
Oh, no, sorry about that. We thought we were fine. I didn't hear any feedback on my end, and neither did Coach. So we appreciate you bringing that to our attention. And in the future, let us know at the very beginning because we don't want to lose you because our audio quality is poor. Because I know that is, she said there's still a lot of noise.
Really?
Because I don't have anything on over here.
I have no idea where that's
Let's
coming
see.
from.
Let me unplug.
How about now?
How about
now? Before we get,
I hear you clear.
or am I clear? A little low, but you still hear me. Okay.
And
I don't know what the issue is. My volume is off here. Everything is off over here.
but you can
So
loud in my headset.
really, so Deb said, okay, and Annie said crystal clear. So I don't know what you did over
I
there.
did. You took your
Oh, I took my headset.
yes. I don't know why. So it might be the mic on your headset. I don't know. But
There is no mic. It's just, yeah, it's just the audio.
so if you unplugged it, the volume is way up on my
Wow.
end.
Okay. Perfect now. All right. So now that's a note for next Tuesday.
Yes.
No headset and everything off on my end. Thank you guys.
All right, so
Appreciate the feedback.
All right, so that means we gotta take from the top again. Take two. All right.
He's joking. And he said, yeah, okay. Laugh out loud. All right, Coach, any final thoughts on tonight's topic?
No, well, other than as you start your day tomorrow or as you start your next now, just be mindful, be aware of what you're thinking and feeling in each moment. And if they're not aligned with what you want, what you seek, what you desire, then make adjustments.
Absolutely. Deb, go ahead, ask a question. You're welcome, Annie. You're welcome. Thank you. Annie says, great session and thank you. So Deb, go ahead and ask your question. We are waiting for you before we
Sign off.
for the night. And if you're asking your question subliminally, we can't hear you. Oh, great question. That's a great question. Let me post that. How do you stop your mind from racing? That is a great question because that is one of the most challenging things to do. I myself personally, what I do is I tell myself when I sit down to really meditate, not journal, but meditate, I have to make a conscious effort to stop myself from thinking. And I say to myself, that's not why you're meditating. Don't think about that right now. Decompress, meaning preempt your thoughts. And those are some of the earlier minutes of my meditation, to be honest with you, is telling myself not to think, not to worry, not to stress. That's not my focus. That's not my issue. That will be there later on. But right now, I'm just in an empty space. That's what I do. Coach, you have any techniques?
Yes. I would say come back to your breathing. First, you could be in a meditative position or you just going through your day. But always come back to your breathing is, I think, one of the techniques, or simply focus on something. It could be an object, but put your attention on that one object. Could be a tree, a flower, somebody walking. But take all your attention and focus on that one object. But it's been proven that the best technique is to just focus on your inhale, your exhale. That will bring you back into the moment, as I say, back into the now. And she said, it causes me to have a panic anxiety attacks, my breathing increases in my heart rate, because again, your mind is still racing. You are letting your thoughts control you, but you are the master of your thoughts. And because you're trying to change a habit, it's going to take time, but you have to work on it every day, because the minute you stop, you slide backwards. So it's like pretty much, anything, exercise or whatever, you got to be intentional about it in this case, almost every moment.
And again, that's why, for me, coupled with the breathing, I have to have a mantra in order to get to that point of just centering myself on thinking about nothing.
Right.
Except for, like you said, you're focusing on one thing. One thing. And if that's a field of flowers, then that's where I am, in a field of flowers. And I'm still able to breathe and think. And if another thought creeps in outside of that field of flowers, I have to bring myself back to, I'm in a field of flowers. I'm in a field of flowers. And there's no particular posture. You could be sitting in your seat. You can be sitting on the floor with your legs crossed, whatever posture you're comfortable in. I think, as you said, Coach, your breathing is important. It's not, for me, the only thing that gets me into that space of meditation. It's telling myself, Nothing else matters in this moment but my clarity and peace of mind. And again, I'm always in a field of flowers because I love flowers. I just love color. So that's where I am. And it's how I get into my space. So find that something that makes you happy
Yes.
and focus on that one thing and tell all other thoughts they have to take a back seat
Mhm.
for the next 5, 10 to 30 minutes. They have to take a back seat.
Because remember, this is about conditioning. And even though, Ed, you said you tried that, you made you try it again because it doesn't happen overnight. Because again, as I said earlier, we're wired. We have lost control. We've lost our mind.
It's not one and done.
No, it's definitely not. So you have to sit yourself down day in, preferably several times a day, depending on where you are in this process. Sometimes, again, it has to be multiple times. But every time you feel yourself, you said you find a happy place. But every time you feel yourself beginning to stress, go to your breathing. Because first of all, that will change everything. Like just simply, taking a deep inhale and a slow exhale. Why do you think that, we do that? There's no real stress, Anything about what happens, just, automatically. When something freaks you out, you go, because your body's trying to immediately de-stress itself.
Yeah.
So you want to take that inhale and stay there. Add to that, as Coach Mitchell said, find that, again, your happy place, stay there.
Yep.
In that moment.
And keep bringing yourself back there. I mean, like Coach said, this is not a one and done. It's going to take routine. It's going to take practice.
Yes.
It's going to take practice. It's going to take practice. It's going to take practice. And that is hands down, unless you have a innate ability to turn it off, it's going to take practice.
Yes.
That repetition is key. And it's, if you can find yourself doing it on consecutive days and not skipping wide periods of time, it gets easier.
Yes. He's enjoyable.
And it is, because I like spending time with me.
Mhm.
Little secret, I like spending time with me because one, it gives me an opportunity to get to know who I am. Get to know who I am and not who someone has defined me as or not what someone sees me as, but it helps me define who I am and get to know who I am so that I'm grounded and I'm rooted in me, in my authentic self, so that no matter what comes my way, I'm the same person today as I was as far as my character is concerned. I have grown, but I am the same personality. You're not going to get discombobulated Mitchell, insane Mitchell, or I'm not going to go over the edge because of my circumstances. That's basically what I'm saying. Because I'm grounded and I'm rooted, and I know worrying and stressing isn't going to change the outcome, but it's how I react to what's going on in my environment that's going to set the stage for how my outcome is going to be.
I think it's important to understand when I mentioned earlier about our body becoming our mind, meaning our body will end up taking control, which again makes it difficult for us to sit still, is that we also get an adrenaline rush from the negative energy, from the worry, from the drama. We always talk about, how some people seem to be attracted to drama. It's because it's an adrenaline rush. So you have to be mindful that, I'm trying to wean myself. I'm trying to detox from the drama, negative energy. And if you ever see anybody go through detox, you see their body, they're craving for that hit. So when you say, oh, I had tried, but I went back, it's because it's an addiction. And again, it's an judgment is scientific. We are addicted, or some of us get addicted to the negative energy.
And that's because it's comfortable.
Mhm.
That's basically why. It's comfortable and it doesn't require we change. And when we start to really reflect and do that introspection, that transformation starts.
Yes.
And with the transformation, change has to happen. So you can't fight the change if you really want to change, if you want to be transformed. You have to fight through the pain
Mhm.
that the change is going to bring. And is it really painful? Is it really painful, or is it just something you don't want to do? A lot of times that's what you don't want to put the effort
You
in.
don't want the effort.
However, again, we're not here to judge. We're here to give you some techniques and tips on how you can overcome some of those hurdles that get in the way of you seeking and finding your next level.
Yes. Because the challenges outside of us aren't going to stop. They're not going to go away. Actually, more is expected to come.
Mm.
That's just it's a fact. So in order to work through this, to survive, to thrive, you're gonna have to go within.
You gotta go deeper. You
That's
gotta
right.
go deeper.
That's the only way out, is to go within.
That's right.
It's as simple as that.
Absolutely. All right. With that, Coach,
Mhm.
I think that concludes our session. We want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight. We thank you for participating. We really enjoyed the engagement. We love the questions and the interaction. Join us here tomorrow night for our Inside Outside on Wellness Wednesday. We'll be back here next Tuesday for another hopefully lively discussion on our Power of Now Tuesday night sessions. I'm Coach Mitchell.
And I'm Coach Darren.
And remember, maximize each moment, because if you do not start now, there will be no next. Have a wonderful evening.